Hello and welcome to the Classic Car Weekly podcast, the sibling podcast to the popular weekly title. I'm this week's host, Jesse Billington, and I'm joined once again by our editor, David Simister.
Hello, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. And we're joined by our content editor as well, James Peen. How are you this morning?
Oh, good, thanks.
Excellent. And obviously we'll kick off as we usually do with an Our Classics catch-up, though of course we were all out and about last weekend, so I don't know if you've had chance to do any fettling and fiddling.
Well, the main news is the Mazda, my 1990 Mazda, has officially been booked in for an MOT. It's next Wednesday, so now I've got to do is get it running again.
Small hurdle. Surely if it's reliable enough, surely that will start.
Well, it's a case of whenever I've had it, it's had like long layups before. It's normally been a case of reconnect the batteries, give it a jump, get it warmed up, and and then get it into the garage. So I'm hoping that that'll be the case again this year. It's I don't know what they might find. I think normally it's with these MX-5s, it's normally brake calipers that normally tend to be the problems. But again, we'll see how it's looking. The good news is the garage is a whopping 2 doors away from me, so it hasn't got far to go if anything does go wrong.
So you haven't really got a chance then to take it for a sort of an Italian tune-up though before it goes in, just to sort of clear
Sadly
it through.
not. No, it's very much it's going to be if I'm doing any Italian tune-ups, it will be of the static variety, revving the out of it on my driveway.
That's the official mechanical phrase.
Pretty much.
James, on your side of things, I know you've got sort of projects abounding, but it's mostly Classic Kitchen Weekly with you these days.
It is. Although I did open the bonnet on the T5 last night and had a quick poke around in there, trying to clear a few spiders out. But then, to be honest with you, my daily driver decided to throw a fit. So that's taking up most of this week, trying to sort that out. But lost all power on the school run. So which was a little bit worrying, but it seems to be okay now. I think it was well overdue a service, so changing the spark plug seemed to have eradicated that major issue. But no, hopefully get back on it. So we've got the bank holiday coming up. I've got some time set aside, but also going to a Volkswagen show, so that should kind of G me up a little bit as well.
Spur you into a bit of action by looking at other people's Volkswagens whose work, and
every year I always say, "Oh, no, I'll come back next year in mine," and that's been like 5 years now. So yeah.
Well, I've just missed the third driver day in a row without my MG, so I'm sort of can feel your pain with that one a little bit. I did have someone else's MG to take. Well, actually, it was Austin Healey Sprite to be accurate, but yeah, I did have a Sprigget to take with me to drive it day, which does lead us nicely into I should say, I'll get into that in a minute. Actually, Our Classics wise, I spent most of last night giving my car a sponge bath, because obviously where I've got the front wings off at the moment to do a load of welding, I found all the grot that hides under the front wings, just sort of all the oil and the dirt that just sort of piles into those gaps. And I basically sort of bought a washing up bowl, some fairy washing up liquid, and a soft bathroom sponge, and I've been just sort of spent the evening sponge bathing the inside of my wings and wheel arches, which is kind of a weird and boring way to spend a Thursday evening. But anyway, we'll get back to the main topic, which is of course Drive It Day, which was on Sunday. We've all been out and about at some of the big events up and down the country. David, I'll let you start off with your adventure out over the lakes.
Yeah, I think I must have been the only person during the whole of this year's Driver Day who got rained on. I'm looking back at the coverage in this week's issue, and there's glorious sunshine page to page, except for my pictures from the Dale May meet in the Lake District, where certainly early on I did actually get a gentle Lakeland rain falling upon my camera lens. So, but it was good fun. There was a lot of variety out in the Lake District, sort of everything from it was a lovely 1924 Vauxhall, which I particularly admired, right through to sort of some of the more modern classics as well. There were lots of sort of Morgans and TVRs as well. There's really good variety, and I've since been informed by the organizer of that event that they raised £1,000 for charity, which is really good.
That's a really solid turnout, yeah. And yeah, I can't believe you were the only one that got rained on, but then again, it is the Lake District. It does have that sort of unique knack to just sort of suddenly be damp and drizzly.
What was it, Alfred Wainwright said, there's no such thing as bad weather, it's bad clothing. So it's just a case of wearing your walking boots and a nice stout jacket.
Yeah. Would it make you feel any better to know that I went to the beach in Teignmouth on that day?
And I bet you probably came back with sunburn as well.
yeah, my little one even went in the sea. So
Wow, there
the
you
complete
go.
counterpoint.
Yeah, it was similar weather conditions in Oxford as I assume Teignmouth was, which was incredibly sunny and warm as well. I had a very nice day out at Bicester. But James, tell us more about Teignmouth. What was the sort of favourite spots on the ground down on the coast?
Yeah, this is the third year on the bounce. I've done the Crashbox and Classic Car Club meet, and it's the second year they've been in Teignmouth as well on the Den, which is a really lovely spot, right in the heart of the town, but on the coast as well. So you've got the sea right next to you. You've got the arcade. So all my family were able to sort of wander off and amuse themselves while I wandered around looking at the cars, which there's an awful lot there. What was it? Was it 250 something like that? Throughout the day, which was a record turnout for them, and a really good mixed bag as well. So I can't think I tell you what was probably my favourite is classic Land Rovers, because tying in with what we were talking about with the military selling theirs off. My wife has said, "Why don't you get a Land Rover?" Because we had one in the past. So yeah, we spent a bit of time nosing around a couple of those. So that was quite productive way to spend the Sunday.
No further invitation needed on that one, I suspect.
No,
As I mean, you
absolutely
and I,
not. It was like, what
yeah,
about this one or this one or this one? So we kind of sort of gone for like, maybe we'll look for Series 3. I think that's a good sort of halfway ground between. It's a bit too old and too new.
Yeah,
yeah, I think
I think that's the good entry point, isn't it? Between like the series ones have really gone up in value, particularly with the restored ones, and at the other end, yeah, I mean there was a long time people getting nuts for Defenders, so prices can still be quite high for those as well.
It helps as well that I've got a friend whose dad has got a Series 3 in a hedge. Yeah, he keeps cars and various bits and pieces in his hedge in his back garden. So maybe looking to pulling that one out at some point and seeing what that's worth.
I think that'd be quite a fun hour classics. Not many hour classics involve the use of secateurs and weed whackers, so that could be quite a unique spin to it. But I know you and I have definitely discussed at length previously the merits of buying an old Land Rover, and it's something that does still sort of scratch at my brain, so I can understand that one. But no, similar weather conditions in Bicester. Ended up borrowing a friend of mine's Austin Healey Sprite, which has been rally prepped. So I think his dad used to use it for a bit of rallying, and Rich has just used it as a sort of daily bomb about since. And yeah, when he saw that we had basically completely disassembled the front end of my MG, he was like, well, if you want to borrow one of something out of my fleet, he has a large number of classic cars, many of which don't work. He was like, well, if we're heading over to Bicester, you might as well come and grab one of my cars. So I went up on the Saturday before, picked up the Sprite, and then set out on Sunday morning. I got to Bicester nice and early, parked up inside in the nice sort of show area, went out and just sort of perused the car park, getting together the coverage, which was great fun, and some absolutely incredible cars turning up there. Obviously, tickets for the Spring Scramble sold out in 11 hours. And that's not surprising when you consider the scope of which people travelled to get to this event from. I interviewed one chap who had come up from the Isle of Wight to come to the Bicester Scramble, which I think is possibly a record for sort of like distance set on Drive It Day to attend an event. We probably ought to start keeping track of that because that's a phenomenal drive. He'd also come in, I think, was he the fella that came in a Maserati Merak as well? There was someone who came in a Merak from South Hampshire, and there was a 911 that came from about a similar area as well. So some big distances being done and some incredible cars. Did also spot a Ferrari F40 that was just parked up in the main car park at the Bicester Scramble, which normal, just next to a 205 GTI and a 406. You're sort of looking at it going, that's about on brand for this event. So some incredible cars out and about there, and yeah, just a very, very nice day. Sat in the sun for most of it with friends, catching up, chatting, and just enjoying the atmosphere of classic cars bumbling around the place, which is very good. And then back to Rich's, drop off the cars, head home. So yeah, it was a lovely drive it day, really, and looking forward to next year's. We've already got the date for next year's, don't we, David? I'm putting on the spot, see if you know it off the top of your head.
I think it's 27th of April 2027, but yeah, you have very much put it on the spot, so I'm going to triple check the date, and I will
No
let you
problem.
know very shortly what the date is.
25th. It'll be the 25th of April because it's always the Sunday after St George's Day.
Oh,
Isn't
I stand corrected then. Yes, April 25th, 2027. Get it in your diary now. All of the details are at driveitday.co.uk, and do make sure you buy a rally plaque because it raises money for Childline as well.
Yes, yeah, we'll have the full. Have we got the full number of what we've raised this year? That usually comes out around November,
That
doesn't it?
normally gets announced during the NEC Classic Motor Show in November. I know that in January they confirmed that they'd broken the £250,000 barrier, so they raised more than £250,000 for Childline, which is phenomenal on the part of the classic motor car movement. I personally think they're going to try and aim to get 300k. That would be phenomenal if they did that.
I mean, I
think-
noticed more plaques this year than I've ever seen at the drive day I went to. So maybe that's going to contribute something towards it.
I think there was, even just on the drive out to Bicester, there was a lot of other classics on the road through the day that I spotted that were all wearing the plaques for the day as well. Even when I stopped to fill up with petrol near Buckingham, another fella pulled in 1930s sort of open top roadster. Hazard a guess that maybe it was an Armstrong Siddeley. And he was off on a run around sort of Oxfordshire with some sort of other friends in classic cars. And again, he had the rally plates on. Everyone was out and about enjoying Drive It Day and supporting it. So I think this was a really good turnout for this year's sort of celebrations and charity efforts as well, which was nice to see. But obviously, we've slotted all of our coverage from those three events. Plus, we also had James Sadlier down at Brooklands, and we've got at least sort of 2-3 pages of reader submitted pictures from their adventures as well. So there's a lot to fit into this week's bumper issue, as well as a feature celebrating 90 years of four-wheeled Morgans. And this was my idea, and I'm really pleased with how this one's come together, I have to say.
Yeah,
James,
it's a really nice celebration of Malvern's heritage.
And James, you'll be familiar with where we shot this because I know that you've worked around Allen White in Bedfordshire as well, sort of fiddling with some of their Morgans before. How familiar are you with the sort of the 4.4s? Because I know, David, you're partial to that sort of a sports car as well.
No, I love a 4.4. It's one of my absolute favourite classics. Going back to when I was a kid, we used to have a doctor who used to drive a Morgan every single day, no matter the weather. You'd see him zooming around in his open top Morgan, possibly with a tonneau, mostly without, like absolutely getting, sleet, rain, everything. So I've kind of grown up with a real love of them. Although I have to say, probably prefer Morgan three-wheeler, but that's just my own little peculiar. But yeah, 4.4 is a fantastic car, sort of old school, but actually still quite usable today.
And David, you've tested a couple over the years as well. Where do they rank on your?
I've tested many Morgans over the years. It's and it's very much processes the nostalgia buttons for me because where I grew up in Southport for many years was home to Life's Motors, which was the oldest Morgan dealership in the world. So that opened in I think it was the 1910s off the top of my head, and it was really one of the it was a really early Morgan dealership, and they used to just be on this little back street in Southport. It was so strange because it was across the road from where all the nightclubs were. It was like kind of the Friday night strip in Southport, where all these teenagers would emerge completely hammered on a Friday night, and then they'd wander off in search of a kebab past all these Morgans.
Yeah,
So
such a sort of
very surreal. But yeah, I mean, I got to know them very well over the years, and when they were open, I used to test drive quite a few of their cars for Classic Car Weekly at the time.
Nice, yeah. And for me, this was quite a nice one because I've done a lot of chasers around at Allen White because they're 20 minutes from my house. So for sort of nipping out and getting some of our chasing cars features in, they're absolutely perfect. And when I was putting together, interesting enough, the Lotus Esprit piece that was in our Christmas issue, obviously Allen White's, they're a specialist for both Lotus and Morgan. I sort of sat down with one of their sort of sales directors, having sort of a chat about sort of the Lotus Esprits for that piece. And that was where we thought up the idea for this piece. It was like, oh, well, it's sort of going to be 90 years of the 4.4 and four-wheeled Morgans next year. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And then sort of went through the usual pitching process and honed the idea. And it was only when I was giving a talk one morning at their breakfast meet that a local owner of the +4, the 1952 car that appears in the piece, came forward and was like, oh, well, if you're looking for an early example of the car, my 52 is out the back. And I was like, okay, perfect. Can you be here in a week and a half's time on Tuesday morning? And sure enough, Garth turned up, and a very sweet car to drive, actually. very interesting driving the sort of early feel of what a Morgan should be, and then progressing through the years and sort of trying to find that same feel in the cars, or seeing how Morgan have retained that sort of composure. But the drop head coupe was a very rare model indeed. Not many people went for it because it had the 3-phase folding roof. But this was a lovely sort of 2-litre standard unit with twin SUs on it, and actually a really fun little car to sort of drive about in. And you could feel that it had a very playful chassis underneath it, but it was very, almost feels advanced for a sort of vintage sports car, but very of its time for a sort of 60s, 70s sports car. It was very interesting how Morgan had engineered that one. But yeah, it was, yeah, I think the Super Sports was the one that left me most divided, though, the 2025 car. Styling wise, I'm still not entirely sold on it. And just the way it goes down the road still feels a little bit Morgan, but
I'll reserve judgment until I've driven one, but yeah, certainly. I know there's lots of people who absolutely love it, but yeah, it is a very, very Marmite car. I'm personally not sold on it, but yeah, that's probably because I've grown up with Morgans with lovely, wire wheels and louvers down the bonnets.
No, I quite like them. I think it's doing something different, something, a step away from their usual Morgan, which it's no bad thing, really, is it? I don't think.
It's good to see them sort of pushing to keep the brand alive and sort of reinvent it for a modern age. And there is still a little bit of ash framing in there, and there is obviously the fantastic new sort of aluminium CX platform underneath it. But I think I try and get to the point of it in the end of the piece, where it's so much of an anachronism in and of itself. It's trying to be a 911 rival, but forgetting that it also needs to be a Morgan first and foremost. And that's where it starts to fall apart. And it's overtired, it's overpowered, so you can't make it move around. Whereas the sort of the 2003 4.4 that I had in the middle of the test felt this absolute perfect balance of what a Morgan sports car should feel like. And then you just can't, on the public roads, take the modern car to that same sort of level of fun and enjoyment without reaching silly speeds and risking everything becoming a tangled mess of aluminium and ash. And it's, yeah, I don't think I'm the target audience for it, I think, is the problem. Someone who enjoys a very sort of grab it by the scruff of the neck and properly chuck it about sort of classic sports car. I don't think that's what the Super Sports is aimed at. But it's nice to see the brand still leaning into a lot of its heritage and holding on to that and making something that's truly engaging. And they've updated it recently for the new 400 series of it, which also means they've ditched the terrible looking ZF automatic gear lever that just juts out from the center console like some sort of robot's plaything. And they've finally tied that into the dashboard a lot better. But even then, I'm still not sold.
I like the way your brain went to the description of that gear lever.
I was sort of halfway
thought
through
about it at length.
Yeah, I was halfway through the sentence and then went, let's try and keep this PG and try and find a way of slotting this in. But yeah, it's an interesting car, and I think Morgan are sort of sitting at a very interesting point on the market as well, because their prices just aren't going up or down, which is strange. They seem to be sort of completely resistant to the changing tide around them. And it's great if you're trying to buy into the market, because there's a level of certainty to it as well, because you can buy in, you can enjoy your Morgan sports car and then pass it on to the next person, sort of free of the concerns as to whether or not you've made or lost money on it. You can just enjoy it for what it is, and then the next person sort of have a go with it once more. And I think they're remarkably approachable as well. I reckon if their prices were a little lower, I think they'd be a great buy-in point to the classic car world for a younger audience, because you've got the very tractable, reliable modern engines, certainly in the 80s, 90s, noughties ones, but also you've got that heritage styling, that lovely piece of sort of history to connect with. It's a great pathway into older cars, older marques, and sort of this sort of heritage of British engineering.
Yeah, certainly. The great thing with Morgans as well is you can have a 2014 Morgan or a 1924 Morgan, and they'll still get welcomed into classic car meets as well.
They just look right, and I love the fact they kept that sort of that styling going as far as possible. There's some really interesting bits that I didn't get to dive into, sort of the SLR sort of racing Morgans, the +4 pluses, and all sorts of weird bits and pieces they dived into. But yeah, I think I've sort of really come to love Morgan through writing this piece, both as a mark and for their engineering and the things they did. Certainly when it came to racing, they a lot of their early cars, their three-wheelers, weren't particularly successful in their first few years. And then Morgan went, well, technically it's a motorcycle. What if we sent it motorcycle racing? And all of a sudden it went doing trials and sort of motorcycle endurance races, and sales rocketed to the point they couldn't actually build them fast enough. And I think that's sort of the great, just sort of give it to go attitude of Morgan that's found them a great deal of success over the years. So yeah, it's a mark that has wormed its way into my heart over the course of writing this piece, and hopefully that comes across in the write-up. What else have we got on our to-do list? James, you've got a brilliant piece in this week's issue as well, which is how to be safe in your classic. This is a very interesting one.
Yeah, this came about after we ran a news story about classic owners feeling at risk driving around in modern traffic, basically not being seen by bigger cars, being blinded by headlights because you're sitting too low. So tasked with speaking to a couple of experts, see what their thoughts were, how we could be seen, be a bit more visible, just feel safer in our cars. So yeah, had a quick chat with Tiff Nadell, spoke to Paul Caroland. Mike Brewer is very helpful as ever, gave us their hints and tips. It's all pretty straightforward, quite obvious in a way, but it's kind of nice to know that everybody feels the same way when they're driving their car, and how easy it can be to stand out a little bit more on the roads.
Yeah, that sort of idea of you're not sort of on your own with thinking you're a bit dwarfed or a bit overlooked on the roads. That is sort of a broader accepted feeling, let's say. And I think there's some sound advice in there, and certainly sort of allowing yourself sort of the space and time, and just sort of generally being a bit sort of more smart with how you position yourself on the road is always quite useful regardless. So it's an interesting piece and sort of a bit of a diversion from what we'd usually put together, but I think it sits nicely within the issue, and I think there's some good takeaways. David, what was your favorite sort of pick from the bunch when you sort of read through this one?
I think the kind of reinforce my own thoughts, which is obviously the principle of defensive driving, which serves you well no matter what you're in. I think it's even more important with classics, and leaving good gaps. Making plenty of good observations early on to try and avoid ending up becoming a cropper. And the more time you give yourself, the less likely you are to end up in a dangerous situation. But yeah, I think the only thing I find, because I'm so used to driving classics, is actually it's not the driving classics that's the tricky part. It's when you get back into a modern car and then you find you've got 3 times the stopping power that you're accustomed to.
It's almost the problem going the other way there.
I mean, that ties in with what everybody I spoke to said, that really you can't do anything about other drivers, but you can affect how you drive. So it's giving yourself plenty of time to react to the road and other people around you, and actually slow down, take your time, just enjoy it. If somebody wants to get by you in a hurry, pull over, let them go. Continue on your journey, and it is about the journey in the classic. It's not the destination.
Yeah, better to arrive there having had a more relaxed and refined journey than otherwise. I think there's some good takeaways in that piece. Also shoehorned into the bumper issue, we have 40 unmissable summer events. We've got a full list of bits and pieces that you can head out to and enjoy with your classic this summer, as well as we sent roving reporter John Lakey to Pride of Longbridge, celebrating some of the best of British engineering from across the decades. And there are some great cars in this collection, and some great imagery as well. John always seems to capture the spirit of a good event as well, and I really want to try and get to Pride of Longbridge one of these years because it does look so much fun. I think there's some really, really nice bits and pieces in there. I love the Austin Maestro van as well, with is it police livery as well, which looks quite fun, a canine police unit. Otherwise, what else have we got to cross through? Also, a good point of advice. The closing date for the London to Brighton Classic Car Run is the 7th of May, so we won't be able to get it into the next issue in print time, but it is very much an event worth attending, worth booking onto. David, you and I have done it several times over the years and can certainly attest that it's worth getting onto.
Yeah, we are. Classic Car Weekly is the media partner for the London's Brighton Classic Car Run. It's always, every time I've been, it's always been a great event. Lots of variety of classics, pre-war cars, modern classics, hot hatches, sports cars, luxury saloons, you name it, it's out there, and it's a great chance to sort of have a really good fun drive. From Brooklands Museum, of course, you get to drive past the Concorde on the way out, through the lovely countryside, over the South Downs, and then once you've headed through the sunshine in central Brighton, you get to park upon the historic Madeira Drive, which finishing point, of course, with the veteran car run and free parking and a classic car show at the end. It's a great day out. To make sure you get your entries in. It's popupcarshows.co.uk if you want to head along and get your ticket booked, because it's a belting event. So make sure you don't miss out on that.
Oh yeah, actually, look at that. I timed that really well. It is actually in this week's Out and About. I'd completely forgotten I'd slotted it in there. I was panicking that it was
there
next
we go.
week.
You see, yeah, we have given it a mention after all, Jesse.
I beat myself to the punch there. It's also in the back of Shot With You. Is that an image from it on the cover of your jumbo-sized Classic Car Weekly behind you?
Yes, actually, yeah. That the if you're watching this on YouTube, the cover there, that is the London's Brighton Classic Car Run. So if you can see that behind me, that is a flavour of what to expect. Lots of classic cars, different variety. My top tip for anyone heading along is bring your sun cream, because it's always blazingly hot.
Yeah, James Sadler and I got a little bit sun-kissed, let's say, when we took my MG on it a couple of years ago. And even with his Polo, when we did it a year after, was still very warm and very sizzly at points. So, yeah, bring the sun cream, and it's always worth doing for a fantastic day out. Otherwise, that is all we've got time for. We've obviously got to get production through because, of course, it is a bank holiday Monday on the way. So we are losing out one day of production, and we are still going to give you an issue of Classic Car Weekly. So, anything else to add, gents?
I think that's all. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to working on my car over the weekend. So I'll let you know this time next week if it passes.
Fingers crossed for your MOT. James, I'll leave you to go and soak up the sunshine, and hopefully you'll get some work done on the Beetle before heading off to the shows.
Yeah, no, looking forward to Stamford Hall, which you'll be able to read about in a forthcoming issue. And yeah, hopefully I'll get plenty of inspiration to pull my finger out.
Get that one sorted. And in the meantime, remember, you can pick up the latest issue of Classic Car Weekly or subscribe to never miss a copy. And of course, remember to like, comment, subscribe to the podcast as well, so you never miss an episode of this when it comes out, as we get back into the proper weekly swing of things. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the Bank Holiday Monday.